Today in Agronomy on KFIL AM 1060 with Pioneer Field Agronomist Allie Wise and Josh Schaffner. Here's Josh and Allie.
Good morning, Southeast Minnesota. It's April 8th, and this is episode 19, Allie. Been making the rounds here a little bit the last 10 days, and kind of exciting to see some guys out there doing some primary tillage, and tillage was kind of a challenge with the late harvest, so it's great to have an early window and see some guys doing that. Seen some manure going on. I've seen some anhydrous. I've seen the floaters out doing urea and maybe catching up on some P&K. Kind of exciting, and hopefully it's a sign of planting season to come, I guess.
Oh gosh, yeah, I think it's really exciting. I mean, it's nice to be having these windows where we can get that stuff done before we hit the heat of the planting battle here. And I think another thing too that's really got me thinking planting here, took a couple soil temp readings here this past couple of days. 47 degrees on bean stubble has been my highest. What has your take maybe been a little farther north?
Yeah, I had a 46 reading the other day. I've talked to a few other of our fellow agronomy teammates, and it seems to be the consensus is somewhere between 47 and 48 is covering maybe the warmest part of the day, and that's encouraging. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we're in good shape here. If the weather cooperates moving forward, we'll just have to wait and see. And it's also just great to see getting a little bit of a jump start on some N applications, and hopefully when we get planning, if we can get some of this work done ahead of time, it should make the system, the logistics flow a little bit smoother maybe than what we had a year ago.
Yeah, so it'll be welcomed. But just kind of maybe switching gears here to what we want to discuss here a little bit today. This nicer weather has us getting more and more of those questions of once things are fit, should I plant, should I not? And then when I decide to pull the trigger on planting, what are maybe some things that might make me consider planting soybeans ahead of corn in some cases? Yeah,
Ellie, it's a question that I think we both receive that question more today than we would have 5-6 years ago, and it's a question that I get, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 every winter. It seems like more all the time as we look at some of the trends over the last few years, and we're going to kind of really take a look at this, and we're going to kind of debate, can there be a case that we should plant soybeans before corn? And we're going to go through both crops. And a couple of things, Allie, I think when we do look at planting soybeans early, obviously we're going to take more of the economic approach to it. A lot of growers that are planting soybeans early, Allie, they might be taking maybe an economic but also a fairly aggressive agronomic approach to why they're doing it. And some of that could be, managing the fall harvest plan, where if we can start harvesting our crops in mid-September versus October, what does that do for our operation? There's also some white mold advantages to planting beans early, where early beans can develop ahead of that. And Allie, I think we both have some growers doing that, and in some cases having pretty tremendous success along the way.
Yeah, but like you said, if we focus a little bit more on maybe the economic side of things, let's just say in a world where not everyone has access to start planting corn and beans at the same time. So if we run a scenario where you figure maybe you're planting corn for 15 days and then you start planting beans, could you just walk us through maybe starting in 2017, what sort of bushel disadvantage or what type of bushels are we missing out on per day?
Yeah, so we're going to take this year by year quick, Allie, and this is coming from our replicated PKP plots, where we get a pretty cool range of planting dates each year and out. I'm actually going to go back one more year. I got 2016 on my list here too, so I'm going to talk about 2016 and 17, and I'll let you go through 2018 and 19. So I'm just going to look at this per day, and we talked about maybe on average it takes guys a couple weeks to finish corn, then get to beans. But in 2016. From the first planting date of beans, which basically we have a few growers that put in bean plots the same day they start corn. But in 2016, each day we waited to plant beans, it was 0.3 bushel that we lost. So every day that you could be planting beans, we were losing about 1/3 of a bushel per day. In 2017, that jumped a little bit where it was 0.4 bushel per day. So in theory, if you could have planted beans the day you started corn, every day that you weren't planting, that was costing us 0.4 bushels a day. How about 18 and 19, Allie?
Yeah, so in 18, we again saw that 0.3 bushel per day. And then in 2019, it was a touch lower, so it was 0.1 bushel per day. But as you mentioned, this is coming out of our replicated PKP sets. So in my opinion, that is a touch lower just because 50% of our plots were planted in that May 15th window, so we maybe weren't able to observe in a lot of cases what that bushel advantage was in those earlier planting windows, because we just unfortunately didn't have a lot of plots that we were able to plant in those windows. So if you look at that 4-year average there, then Josh, and kind of work the math on out through the back end, what are we looking at there?
Yeah, the 4-year average in that, I was just running the quick math there because I went back through and referenced 16. It's 0.275 bushels per day. And again, if you kind of try to play that out forward in current economics, and I like that 15-day, I think some growers can maybe do that quicker. Some it might take longer to make that switch depending on their operation. If we're waiting 15 days at 0.275 bushel, that's, we're looking at about 4.1 bushels we're giving up on our bean crop in most operations where we're planting all of our corn and then switching to beans. That's on average over the last 4 years of data that we're giving up. So now if we think about that 4.1 bushel, we look at that, maybe times the current market of $8. So the question is, Allie, if we're looking at, $33, $35, depending on how you look at the math and your marketing. So now what we need to do afterwards we come out of break is we need to go through corn and look at the same scenario that, let's say it takes us 15 days. What do we give up? And look at moisture, and we'll kind of compare, is there a case to plant beans, or should we maybe plant corn first? And we'll go through that after break.